Sure, studying the grammar, analyzing the morphology and the syntax, and translating texts are all very important and good to get your Latin muscles working. But if you want to eventually read Latin, well, you need to practice reading Latin. And that you should be doing from the beginning. Of course, you didn't learn how to read English with Chaucer, Shakespeare, and all those good old people. And of course, you shouldn't try to start reading Latin with Ovid, Tacitus, Cicero, or Virgil. So, let's start with something you can handle from the beginning, and that is Ora Maritima, a Latin story for beginners, published by Edward Adolph Sonnenschein at the beginning of the 20th century, and this book tells more or less continuously and with ascending difficulty about present day, earlier 20th century, present day, that is, England, and mostly about Julius Caesar's incursion against the Britons. And now, the good part. It starts practically from scratch, and each chapter increases a little in difficulty and adds more vocabulary and grammatical content. In general, the syntax is quite easy, since the idea is to be able to read rather than analyze and translate. Also, this book is in the public domain, so it is free to use, download, etc. You can do so on archive.org. I'm going to leave the link. And now, how to use this? I'm going to give my recommendation. First, try to read the text without any type of analysis or even translation. Of course, you have the whole vocabulary list available, so you can be checking the words you don't know. Once you have read a few sentences, stop and think if what you've read and understood makes sense. That's important, that what you have read makes sense. If it doesn't, then you probably didn't get it right, so try again. After you have done your job, check the videos like this, where I'm going to be translating, explaining, and elaborating whatever needs to be elaborated. Even if you think you got everything, I strongly recommend checking the videos, since there's always something to learn from the teacher. I'm going to be projecting the ebook directly on the screen, and I'm going to be reading in Latin and translating, and of course commenting whatever I consider it's relevant, important, interesting. So here we have the first chapter, which is also the title of the book, Ora Maritima, which we can translate as sea coast. Ora is coast, Maritima refers to the sea, so sea coast. Then it starts, and of course at first it's a bit dumb, silly, even repetitive, but that's how it is supposed to be. So it says, Cuán bella est ora maritima, how beautiful is the sea coast. Non procul ab ora maritima est villa, not far from the sea coast is the country house, or even the villa. In villa amita mea habitat, in the country house my aunt lives. Et ego cum amita mea nunc habito. And now I live with my aunt. Ante januam villae est area. Before the door of the country house there is an open space. In area est castanea. In the open space there is a chestnut tree. Ubi luscinia interdum cantat, where a nightingale sometimes sings. Sub umbra castaneae ancilla interdum cenam parat. Under the shade of the chestnut tree, the handmaid sometimes prepares dinner. Amo oram maritimam, amo villam bellam. I love the sea coast. I love the beautiful country house. Feriae nunc sunt. The holidays are now. Inter ferias in villa maritima habito. During the holidays I live in the country house by the sea. Here notice that maritima is just the adjective of villa. We can translate as the country house by the sea. I guess the sea country house sounds a bit weird. Then, oh beatas ferias, oh happy holidays. In arena orae maritimae sunt anchorae et catenae. In the sands of the sea coast there are anchors and chains. Nam incolae orae maritimae sunt nautae. For the inhabitants of the sea coast are sailors. Magna est audacia nautarum, procellas non formidant. Great is the audacity of the sailors. They don't fear the storms. Nautas amo, ut nautae me amant. Now this sounds a bit weird nowadays, but it says, I love the sailors as the sailors love me. Cum nautis interdum in scapis navigo, with the sailors sometimes I sail in the boats. Ex fenestris villae undas spectas. From the windows of the country house, literally this is like you contemplate the waves. This we could probably translate better in English as you can contemplate the waves. But this you can is not there in the Latin text. It's like you, as in like generic you, like everybody, anybody can contemplate the waves. Undas caeruleas amo. I love the blue waves. Quam magnae sunt, quam perlucidae. How big they are, how transparent. Post cenam lunam et stellas ex fenestra mea specto. After dinner, I contemplate the moon and the stars from my window. Prope villam est silva, ubi cum amita mea saepe ambulo. Near the country house there is a forest, where, with my aunt, often I walk. Quantopere nos silva delectat. How much the forest delights us. O copiam plantarum et herbarum. O abundance of plants and herbs. O copiam bacarum. O abundance of berries. Non solum nautae, sed etiam agricolae circum habitant. Now here we have this very common structure. Non solum whatever, sed etiam whatever. That is, not only this, but also that. No? So, not only the sailors, but also the farmers live around. Casae agricolarum parvae sunt. Now, this is a false friend with Spanish or Italian. Casa doesn't mean house. Casa is a cottage. So, the cottages of the farmers are small. Nautae casas albas habitant. The sailors, and now habitant we can translate as inhabit to keep the structure, no? Inhabit something, the direct object, no? So the sailors inhabit white cottages. Amita mea casas agricolarum et nautarum saepe visitat. My aunt often visits the cottages of the farmers and of the sailors. Now, paragraph 4 is a bit cringy, but let's just keep in mind that this was written at the beginning of the 20th century. It says, Victoria est regina mea. Victoria is my queen. Magna est gloria Victoriae reginae, non solum in insulis Britannicis, sed etiam in India, in Canada, in Australia, in Africa, ubi coloniae Britannicae sunt. So, great is the glory of Queen Victoria, not only in the British Islands, but also in India, in Canada, in Australia, in Africa, where are the British colonies. Regina est domina multarum terrarum. The queen is the mistress of many lands. Britannia est domina undarum. Britain is the mistress of, literally, of the waves. We can just translate of the seas. In gloria reginae meae triumpho. I triumph in the glory of my queen. Te Britannia amo. Vos insulae Britannicae amo. You, Britain, I love. You, British Islands, I love. Sed Britannia non est patria mea. But Britain is not my fatherland. Ex Africa meridiana sum. I am from Africa meridiana, that is, from South Africa. So this kid who is narrating all of this is a South African kid. Okay, so that was the cringy part. Now we go back to normal. Lydia quoque con sobrina mea apud amitam meam nunc habitat. Lydia also, my cousin, with my aunt lives now. Lydia columbas curat. Lydia cares for the pigeons. Cura columbarum Lydiae magnam laetitiam dat. The care of the pigeons gives Lydiae, that is the dative, not the indirect object, gives Lydia great joy, great happiness. Tu, Lydia, cum apud magistram tuam es, linguae franco-gallicae et linguae anglicae operam das, sed ego linguis antiquis Romae et Graeciae operam do. So now it's like addressing the cousin, no? You, Lydia, when with your teacher, like female teacher, no? When you are with your teacher, and now this is like a construction that is hard to translate into English, like literally, no? So it would be literally something like you give attention, and now dative, no? You give attention to something. You give attention, that is, you study. We could just translate as study, but literally, you give attention to the French language and the English language, sed ego, no? But I give attention to the ancient languages of Rome and of Greece. Saepe cum Lydia ad silvam vel ad oram maritimam ambulo. Often with Lydia, I walk to the forest or to the sea coast. Interdum cum nauta in scappa navigamus. Sometimes we sail with a sailor in the boat. Quantopere nos undae caeruleae delectant. How much the blue waves delight us. Lydia casas agricolarum cum amita mea interdum visitat. Lydia visits the cottages of the farmers with my aunt sometimes. Was filiae agricolarum Lydiam amatis, ut Lydia was amat. Now the narrator is addressing the daughters of the farmers, no? You, daughters of the farmers, love Lydia, as Lydia loves you. Ubi inopia est, ibi amita mea inopiam lewat. And now we have another construction of ubi whatever, ibi whatever. So it will be something like, kind of literally, where there is poverty, there my aunt alleviates the poverty. This actually kind of sounds a bit condescending, even like a bit classist, but okay, whatever.